Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Central Java in Indonesia. Central Java, of course, being on the island of Java, the most populous island in Indonesia and the most populous island in the world. We are obviously here in the center of the island. This area here is the Yogyakarta region. This area here is not part of Central Java, so we're not going to be talking about Yogyakarta tonight. It'll come up in history, but we won't be getting into details about that place for a long time, won't we? The capital of this region, this district, province, Indonesia's provinces. This province is Semarang. You can see up here on the coast. And it looks very busy in this area, doesn't it? It's not, from what I can tell, as populated as Jakarta over there, but it's still very heavily populated. We're also going to be talking about Surakarta right here. Very important city there as well. But, what I'm trying to say is that this area looks like it's industrialized city area, and it's very much not. It is very forested, and there are many, many volcanoes throughout this area. The most famous being Mount Merapi, which is right here. There's also Mount Muria, which is over here, but there's plenty more over here. We'll look at all of them on Google Earth. They're very beautiful volcanoes. And there's lots of forest, rivers, and all of the beautiful nature that you associate with Indonesia. But most importantly, the most famous archaeological site in Indonesia is located in this region, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So let me get my tablet and we will read about, there's technically 2 sites, in this area, but we're going to talk about 3. And I'll tell you why in a second once I get this. Make sure it's in frame for you guys. We're talking about Borobudur, the Borobudur Temple compounds. This famous Buddhist temple, dating from the 8th and 9th centuries, is located in Central Java. It was built in 3 tiers, a pyramidal base with 5 concentric square terraces, the trunk of a cone with 3 circular platforms, and at the top, a monumental stupa. The walls and balustrades are decorated with fine low reliefs, covering a total surface area of 2,500 square meters. Around the circular platforms are 72 open-work stupas, each containing a statue of the Buddha. The monument was restored with UNESCO's help in the 1970s. Borobudur is considered the largest Buddhist temple in the world. It's so beautiful. It's on my bucket list. I just want to wander around all the little stupas there and just get lost in this maze. There's a debate over the largest Buddhist temple, but in my opinion, this is it. There's Angkor Wat, which is, of course, the largest religious building in the world, which is a Hindu/Buddhist temple. I also read that Pagan in Myanmar is also considered the largest Buddhist temple, but Pagan is multiple temples all put together. This is one big single complex, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So beautiful. We'll, of course, look at it on Google Earth later. Speaking of temples, I want to talk about Prambanan. Now, Prambanan is not technically within the boundaries of Central Java, but it is on the border literally on the border, and it's going to come up in history, and we can't not look at it on Google Earth. There's also lots of temples around it that are in the Central Java district, province. My goodness, what is district? What am I reading that was district? I don't know. Province. But even though this isn't technically in Central Java, we're going to look at it anyway. It's like when we did Cairo, when we had to look at the pyramids, even though the pyramids aren't technically in Cairo. It's the same thing. So, built in the 10th century, this is the largest temple compound dedicated to Shiva in Indonesia. Rising above the center of the last of these concentric squares are 3 temples decorated with reliefs illustrating the epic of the Ramayana, dedicated to the 3 great Hindu divinities, which are Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, and 3 temples dedicated to the animals who serve them. This temple's absolutely gorgeous. I didn't realize how close it was to Borobudur, so I may as well tack that on to the bucket list as well. But it is gorgeous. It reminds me of almost like a medieval castle in how it's structured, or almost like Mayan ruins. But it's just very stunning, and the details are incredible. Getting into history of this area, we're going to talk about the Sangiran early man site. Excavations here from 1936 to 1941 led to the discovery of the first hominid fossil at this site. Later, 50 fossils of Meganthropus paleo and Pithecanthropus erectus, or Homo erectus, are found, half of all the world's known hominid fossils. Inhabited for the past 1.5 million years, Sangiran is one of the key sites for the understanding of human evolution. So yes, as we can see here, there's a very famous Homo erectus skull found here in, I think it said the 1930s, right? And he's known as Java Man, or apparently Solo Man. They call him in Indonesia because it's by the Solo River. Sangiran is located about here, and it's there that they found Java Man and many other fossils from Homo erectus, believed to be about 1.7 million years old. So, I always say people have been living here for a long time. It's been a long, 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 long time. Our distant ancestors lived here long before humans did. Very fascinating. Slowly but surely, people would have moved to the island of Java and to the various islands of Indonesia from Southeast Asia. And eventually, over time, other peoples from Southeast Asia would visit this area and bring with them their religions, in particular Hinduism and Buddhism, from India, of course. So just to speed run the various kingdoms that existed in what's now Central Java, some of them weren't centered in Central Java, but administered this area. Starting with Mataram, which ruled this area from the 8th to 11th centuries. They were a Hindu-Buddhist kingdom, and they were the ones who built Prambanan, that big, huge temple that we saw. The big, pretty palace one. After that would have been the Shailendra Empire, which ruled this area from about the 8th century to the year 1025 when they were conquered. They were Buddhist, and they built Borobudur. Lots of history about the Shailendra. After that would have been the Majapahit Empire, which ruled this area from 1292 to 1527. They were also Hindu-Buddhist, and they're a very important empire in Indonesian history as they ruled not just Central Java and Java, but pretty much all the islands of Indonesia. it would be around that time that Islam would begin to be introduced to the islands here. And slowly but surely, Muslim kingdoms would rise up in these islands here, and Java was no exception. As the Majapahit declined, the Demak Sultanate started to gain power. You can see Demak is right here. They ruled this area from 1475 to 1546. And as they fell, another extremely powerful Muslim kingdom rose in its place, the Mataram Sultanate. They ruled this area from 1584 to 1755. 1755, though, was not their decline, in a sense. The various powers within the empire came together, worked out a treaty, and split the kingdom into two. One of them became the Yogyakarta Sultanate, and the other became the Suryakarta Sultanate, which is still around today. They're still active. They're still, they don't rule the area. It's Indonesia. But that royal family is still around today in their palaces and everything. We'll take a look at, I know there's like 2 or 3 in Surakarta. We'll look at least one on Google Earth. It's pretty neat, I think, when ancient kingdoms like that are still kicking. I think that's pretty cool. Like, considering everything that happened here in Indonesia, which we'll get into now, because in the 16th century, the Dutch arrived, establishing in time the Dutch East India Company to mostly trade spices over to Europe, but they also traded hardwood, eventually sugarcane, lots of other crops and natural resources from these islands. It reached a point where the people here were fed up with the Dutch, and the Java War broke out in this area between 1825 and 1830, led by Prince Diponegoro, who was very important in Indonesia's history. He's a national hero. That's why I mention him. But the Dutch held firm to this area until 1942, when Japan invaded, the start of World War II in the Pacific. Now, at first, people thought, oh great, we got the Dutch out, that's fantastic, but the Japanese were far worse to the people here than the Dutch. We're not going to get into the Japanese occupation, because this is a relaxation video, and also YouTube is not terribly accepting of those kinds of facts, but you can imagine the various atrocities that occurred in this area from Japanese occupation. It's very notorious of the Japanese military World War II to treat the peoples of the countries they occupied not very kindly, to put it in the gentlest terms. Japan would surrender to the United States in August 1945, but for whatever reason, they were determined to hold on to Semarang. Indonesia by then had declared its independence, so a big battle broke out between the Indonesians and Japanese there, which eventually they sent the Japanese packing in time. The Dutch, however, wanted all this territory back, and they would fight a war with many battles here in 1948, which eventually I believe the UN had to step in and be like, Netherlands, just let it go, and Indonesia would finally gain its full independence. Meanwhile, communism was on the rise here in Central Java. It was very popular among many people here, and at one point in 1946, the communists rose up in Surakarta and took over the city, of course deposing the royals and establishing their own government here in Surakarta, which of course Suharto, who was in charge of Indonesia at the time, was very anti-communist, and in 1965 his forces finally invaded the city, and removed all of the communists, not just from power, but from their bodies, if you know what I'm saying. All of them. There was a huge anti-communist purge throughout Central Java. And again, not just rooting out people from positions of power, removing them from their jobs, but removing them from their bodies. A lot of them. But that was Suharto, wasn't it? The only other very recent event that I read that happened here in Central Java was a huge earthquake in 2006 that was centered around Yogyakarta, devastating this area. Many tens of thousands losing their lives, and of course many more losing their homes and properties. But Indonesia is an incredibly seismically active place. You saw all the volcanoes I mentioned. We'll look at them on Google Earth in a second. It's part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Earthquakes are a way of life. You know, I'm from California. We had earthquakes every day. At one point, I lived like a block from a fault line. And sometimes I would just feel a little back massage every once in a while. Earthquakes are a part of life in places like Indonesia. But the devastating ones like that are no joke. Huge earthquakes like that are absolutely terrifying. And thankfully, this area has bounced back since then. And that is the very brief history of the Central Java region. Now, why don't we hop over to Google Earth? Because we definitely have a lot of things to look at. So let's just get right to it. Let's go to the tablet and look at Central Java on Google Earth. Let's go. Here we are in Central Java. And let's start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. Here's the island of Java. You can see the capital for now, Jakarta. They're planning on building a new one. They're working on that now. Good luck. But yeah, that is Java. Sumatra's up here. Bali's over here. We've already done a video on Bali. And then up here's Borneo, which we are going to Central Kalimantan tomorrow. I was originally going to combine these two areas because this area doesn't have nearly as much history or geography as this area, but there's so much happening here. I was like, I can't sideline this area. It's too pretty. Plus there's things I really want to show you there. So it'll have its own video. Here's Indonesia, the world's largest archipelago. An archipelago is just a grouping of islands. Sulawesi's over here. We'll be going there very soon. Central Papua we'll be going to very soon. All of the centrals. But we can see Malaysia up here. Australia is down there. Indonesia's in the middle there. Philippines is up here. We're going here very, very soon. They have lots of central places as well. So let's start. Goodness, where to start? I guess we'll just go right into it and see all the goodies. All of my faves. So here is Mount Merapi, which is a very sacred mountain. And you can tell why just by looking at it, because it's absolutely gorgeous. Lots of hiking up there. It is still very active. Most of the volcanoes here are. It's just a very beautiful peak. So we'll see Prambanan and Borobudur in its shadow. It's just really beautiful. There's a big bunker there, apparently. So let's look. Let's see if I can remember where they are. I have to find Yogyakarta. And it's over here on this side, right? I want to say, or it's on the other side. I don't remember. I just know it's on the border with the Yogyakarta region in Central Java. Literally, the border like wraps around the temple. There it is. Prambanan. See, look at that. It is technically in Yogyakarta, but we can't not look at it. It's so look at that layout. It's fantastic. You can see the different temples inside. Someday we'll head over to Yogyakarta in many, many years And we'll take a closer look at beautiful Prambanan, but it is just a gorgeous complex. Oh, how neat. Take cool photos there. Absolutely stunning area. It is something else. But Borobudur has always been in my heart. There's something kind of magical about Borobudur. See, there's a big temple over here that's just as beautiful. Look at the Lumbung temple. It's like a mini Prambanan. Isn't that something? A little museum there for it. So you can still see temples from that time period in Central Java technically. Showing you all the different... Kandi is the word for temple in Javanese, I believe. It's showing you where all the temples are located. There's a bunch over here. There's another right there. Look at this one. This one's even bigger. Look how gorgeous. These temples are stunning. Look there. Taking a photo there in the golf cart because it's so big. It's probably just easier to golf cart around this area. And look, you can see what it once looked like. Gosh, it was even grander than this, if you can imagine. My goodness. Gorgeous. That's amazing. What a beautiful area. But let's go look at Borobudur. Normally, I would save a place like that for last, but I can't wait. It is so beautiful. Look at it from above. Look at that. Amazing. Okay, let's look at it. It's just so cool from above. Borobudur Temple. This is the place I want to go to the most in all of Indonesia, more than Bali, more than Jakarta. I want to come here and I just want to wander around this area. There's something very, I was about to say mystical. Obviously it's a Buddhist temple. It's supposed to be mystical, but I don't know. I'd feel like I'm in the movie Labyrinth. Like there's something special about it. It's incredible. Just taking it in. I want to go here so badly. This is like in my top 10 bucket list is Borobudur. There's museums around for it, but we can skip those for now. It's better just to see the real thing right there. Look at all the Borobudur stuff around. Everything's named after it because it's such a tourist draw. There's Borobudur land. Alright, let's look at some volcanoes. Look at these. Goodness. Mount Sumbing. If anyone in the comments goes, well, that sure is Sumbing. I'm going to delete it. But it's, of course, a beautiful volcanic area. Look at this cool plant. Gosh, looks like Colombia. Sunset Camp. And then there's this beautiful Mount Sindoro. Look at that crater. Pretty amazing. Look, they hiked up to the crater. That's pretty cool, I think. There was one, I think it was over here, yeah. Or look how prominent that crater is, Mount Slummit. Look at it billowing. It's angry. Look at the beautiful rice farms, though. Isn't that so pretty? I didn't mention the various famines that occurred here. There was one during Dutch occupation when they made all the farmers stop farming rice so that they could farm crops for the Dutch to export. So many people went hungry because they weren't growing any food for themselves. Look how pretty. And then there was a very large famine after the Japanese occupation when a lot of infrastructure was destroyed and the country tried to bounce back from that. Let's go look at the Java Man Museum. So I have to remember where it is. There's Yogyakarta. I have to find Surakarta. And then it's like up here. There it is. Got nailed it in one. There's like multiple museums. I don't know what that's about. But the slideshows are almost all the same, so I don't know if it's not mistagged or what. Because like these two looks like have almost, well, they do have the same name. But I don't know what's going on with that. But pretty cool museum. Look, it looks like a woolly mammoth skull, partially. The homeland of Java Man. Let's see. Let's get the exteriors. Look at those bones. They look like elephant teeth. Surely woolly mammoth. And here is Homo erectus. It's so weird to think about different species of humans. That is just like a weird concept to wrap our head around. Because it feels so impossible, you know. Let me see. There was one that had a really interesting display of Homo erectus skulls. Look at this little turtle. Cute. Goodness. Must have been this one. They have almost the same names. Like, what's up with that? Where is it? There must be another slideshow somewhere. I don't know. They are all replicas, of course, but it was just a bunch of different skulls that they had found, or replicas of the skulls. I'm not sure. Maybe there's another slideshow around here that showed it. Maybe it's this one. See, look, there's another museum, but it shows all the same stuff. Was it? Yes, this one. This is the picture I'm looking for. Replicas of the various skulls, jawbones, and things found in this area. Pretty remarkable. I wonder what it is about this area. You know, so look, here's a dig site right here that's all enclosed. That allowed all of these fossils to be maintained. Look at this one. They've got like the body frames and the skulls on top, so you could see roughly what their bodies looked like. It's pretty incredible. What a cool museum. But let's head down to Suryakarta. There's a palace right here, I believe. Yes. Palace complex in Suryakarta. It is the official palace and residence of the Duke of Mangkunagara and his family. Palace complex is one of the centers of Javanese culture and contains a museum with historical artifacts. Look how gorgeous. It's so bright. It's so shiny. I mean, it is a palace, so I get it. Lovely little greenhouse area, sitting room area, beautiful ceiling with chandeliers. Sorry for my creaky desk. Tusk, some kind. Old building there, my goodness. We'll look at some old Dutch buildings in a minute. Yeah, beautiful palace. Look at the carriage. That's pretty great. Trying to remember if I can remember another castle, but I don't speak this language, so I don't know what all these words mean. Let's see what this is. That's a statue. Looks like war heroes. Spirit of Java, Solo. Looks like there's a Geruda on top. There's a cat scratching at the door. I locked the cats out today because they've been annoying me while I film. And now one of them wants in. That's just too bad. Let's look at Demak, because I told you about the Demak Sultanate. There's a mosque here I want to show you. See if we can make it pop up. I think it's right here. Yes. So, mosques, right? Especially like the official big fancy mosques. Like, they all have a vibe to them, right? The beautiful calligraphy, the minarets, the domes, the beautiful walls, you know. There's like a beauty to mosque, kind of like, you know, all cathedrals have a lot of same characteristics. So do mosques. This mosque was built in the 1500s, and it looks nothing like any mosque I've ever seen. It looks like a big pyramid. Isn't that something? It looks like it was built in like the 1980s, but it was built in like the 1580s. It's incredible and really shows, look, Suharto was here in 1987. Really shows the culture here, how they took Islam and integrated it into their own culture. And, didn't make like a mosque like you would see over in like Uzbekistan or Saudi Arabia, Syria, all of those countries that have big, gorgeous, Egypt, Morocco. They made it their own, and that's really incredible, I think. In my opinion, at least. Now let's hop over to Semarang. Over here, Kota Lama, I've learned that that's downtown, and it has a lot of Dutch-built buildings here. There's the church, we'll look at that in a second. But it still has a lot of the old Dutch architecture and a lot of Dutch influence still around it. There's a charger box, apparently looks like a little phone box. Sorry for the cat scratching at the door. I'll take care of him in a minute. But yeah, look how beautiful. Like if I showed you this image and said, where is this? You would say, maybe like somewhere in Western Europe, No, it's in Indonesia. Really beautiful. But yeah, their old church is right over here somewhere. Right there. This church came up a lot in research. Everything mentioned it. I don't think this looks like a church at all. Kind of like the mosque we just looked at. This looks like a bank. This looks like a government building with the columns there. Not a lot of churches have those facades, but it looks like a church certainly inside. It looks very like stuffy and official, which I guess the Dutch were at that time. But I didn't really see much else to show you in Semarang. There's lots of other pictures, and as always, I encourage you to poke around this area yourself because there's lots of beautiful wildlife, lots of mountains. We'll look at this one to end the video. But there's like too much to show you here. So let's look at Mount Muria while I end this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. And if you really enjoyed this, definitely subscribe because like I said, we're going to Central Kalimantan. We're going to see one of Indonesia's most beautiful national parks with its large population of orangutans. And we're just going to see more pictures like this of the stunning, stunning beauty of Borneo. Wow. Pretty cool. Look how beautiful. Gosh, it's like Indiana Jones. That's awesome. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good night. Good night. Good night.